Silent Hill 2 reflects on James Sunderland's trauma and regrets through symbolism in its setting and characters. But characters in the game may have drawn inspiration from historical figures like who to this day is still unknown and was never caught for his crimes. When it comes to psychological horror in video games, Silent Hill 2 is a masterpiece in character study. The spectral fog that overtakes the tiny town is, in many ways, a metaphor for James Sunderland's trauma and the toll it's taken on his psyche. The monsters that emerge from the mist represent the horrors of Sunderland's past and his regret over unspeakable actions. The fog itself reflects Sunderland's mind and how it protects itself by masking the dark truths of his actions. Nearly every aspect of the game, from its setting to its narrative, is designed to conjure fear. While the horrors in Silent Hill 2 are projections from Sunderland's mind, the creators of the game masterfully implement real-world elements that enrich the story. Aspects of the work of famed psychotherapist Carl Jung are representative in the monsters that Sunderland encounters. They embody his self-loathing and unconscious longing for punishment. The iconic fog that elevates this setting of Silent Hill 2 is strikingly similar to a supposedly real paranormal phenomenon known as electric fog. Apparently, early ideas for the characters borrowed directly from one of the most famous murders in history, Jack the Ripper and Mary Jane Kelly.
Well, if it isn't Sussy Jack.
Early concepts for James and Maria toyed with the idea of giving them both combating personalities. James's other personality was going to be named Jack, while Maria's would have been Mary. A murderous hidden personality fits James well, given what is learned about his past deeds. Mary Jane Kelly was a far more complex figure in many ways. Of the 5 central figures that most experts agree were most certainly victims of the Ripper, the least is known about Mary. In that regard, being the final victim of the Ripper eerily makes sense in relation to Maria in Silent Hill 2. When considering these implications, Maria's numerous deaths throughout Silent Hill 2, as well as her similarities to James's late wife, are given more depth. She was always a manifestation of the protagonist's troubled mind, an idealized version of Mary that was never real to begin with. She dies repeatedly throughout the game, leading the narrative towards the inevitable reveal that James was Mary's real killer. In every possible ending of Silent Hill 2, only James knows that he is Mary's killer. Likewise, the only person who likely knew Jack the Ripper's true identity was the Ripper himself.
I don't know, it's a mystery.
While likely not intentional, there are elements of Silent Hill 2 that lend themselves to the setting surrounding the Whitechapel murders. The sinister fog covering the sleepy town is reminiscent of the foggy Victorian streets stalked by the Ripper. Just as the monsters of Silent Hill 2 move through the fog, Jack the Ripper likely used the foggy streets to his advantage, allowing him to evade capture and identification. Likewise, the Ripper would write antagonizing letters to London law enforcement, taunting them while leaving a trail of clues, just as the story of Silent Hill 2 hints at James's true nature. Nearly 140 years later, much of what is known about Jack the Ripper remains a mystery, from the killer's identity to the number of his victims. Even historians often disagree on what was fact and what was folklore pertaining to the Red Fiend. While noting the similarities between Silent Hill 2 and the Whitechapel murders is certainly interesting, it's important to remember that real victims were involved. While the final version of Silent Hill 2 doesn't include many of the originally intended parallels the developers first envisioned, Jack the Ripper still continues to influence pop culture on a massive scale.
Giggity.